everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Tonight's conversation is with John Shawns, one of the pastors at First Methodist Church, Winter Park. John and I are going to be talking about this idea of mentors and folks that are helping to guide us through different transition moments in our life. Whether you just graduated high school and are getting ready to start college, or whether you're transitioning from one major to the next, or maybe you are almost at the end of your college career and you're transitioning to time in the workforce or getting a job or finding out what your calling is in your life. This conversation talks about all of that, and I look forward to hearing if you have any comments below during the conversation. Just let us know, and we hope to engage you in that conversation.
Hey everyone, I just want to introduce you to a friend of mine, John Shawns, and give him a chance to just let us get to know him in our conversation today. So I'm going to hand it over to John.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm really excited to be here. My name is John Shawns. I'm an associate pastor at First United Methodist Church of Winter Park, and I've been there for about 8 years. I was the pastor for young adults for a long time, and I'm transitioning into a role of associate pastor there. And I'm just so thankful to be here. You know, we have students that go to UF and go to Gator Wesley, and I've been friends with Joel and Heather for a long time, and they've actually been real important to the formation of my faith and my life. And so I love them so much, and I'm just really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, John. For those of y'all just joining us, Heather and I met John when he was a college student at the University of South Florida. Heather would say, "Go Bulls," because she got one of her degrees there.
That's right.
Later in life, we met John when he came back and served at camp as a camp pastor when he was in seminary at Duke. And so it's our paths have crossed. John messes with my daughters every time he sees them, and doesn't smack them upside the head, but just it's a great thing to have John with us today. And one of our goals for these questions and conversations, John, this summer has just been introducing some of our college students to some cool people who have had some experiences in life, and who get it, who get parts of our conversation and are helpful in the world in finding ways to express faith in different ways. And so we appreciate you, John.
Thanks for having me.
Today we are having a conversation about transitions, transitions in our lives, transitions in the world. And some people use the word transitions, or maybe they interpret it as with the word change. Like, you know, my life is changing because of where I'm living, or what school I'm going to is changing because I graduated one college and I'm starting another. Or for college students, if you're like me, my life is changing because I changed majors again. And that's all right. Another couple laps around the block. But just to throw this out there to kind of give us context for our conversation about transitions and change, John, talk about some of the things that maybe in your life or in your experience over this past year have been changing. What are some of the changes or transitions that you've been going through or you've seen in the world?
Yeah. So a couple things. I mean, personally, I have some things that are going on. Obviously, like I'm transitioning into this new role. So I'm transitioning in a larger leadership role in my church. And so I have all the things that go along with that. I'm transitioning in my personal life also because I just got engaged. And so, and my fiance's in medical school and she's finishing up this year. So that'll bring with it a lot of transition. So there's those things going on. And then also, there's some, obviously there's transitions in the world that are changing the way we're thinking about how we're being ministers. And so, you know, you have things obviously like the pandemic that we're all experiencing, and then things in the Methodist Church that we're going through. And then also, you know, these huge social movements that are happening, like Black Lives Matters. There's all these different things happening, and there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think there's also like a lot of opportunity there too in the midst of transition and change. You know, there's the way I think we might look at it is there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear, but I think there's also a lot of opportunity that comes with transition. So,
yeah. One of those things, a lot of our audience, John, when we're here at the Wesley Foundation, are college students. And I know you've done extensive work with folks that are transitioning from high school to college and some of your small groups that you meet with. And I know you've been a minister with young adults in your community. And so you've walked alongside and with and been through relatively recently that moment in your life where you have transitioned from one phase of life into another. Why do you think faith, or maybe it's our faith communities, are so important in these moments? And another way to maybe phrase that question is, why are these moments of transition in our lives so important?
Yeah, well, so I think they're so important because they can really shape and form who you are in a really good way. And the way that I think that happens is it's about people. I really think it's about people. So the relationships you have, the people that you build around you can really influence like how you tackle that transition or how you are shaped and formed by that transition. And so one of the things that I used to do was I would have each year I would have a group of high school seniors that I met with the entire year until they went to college. And the reason I did that was because I wanted them to know that when they left, they always had a safe space with me and the other young adults who were helping lead that group, that they had people that they could, as they were in that transition, talk to them, call us, text us, share questions with us they had, or talk about their experience of transitioning, because it really matters if you have those people to lean on and to wrestle and work through it. So for me, it's about people. And, I actually just recently, there's a student of mine who she's going to UF next year, and her sister's already at UF. And I was talking to her and I said, and it was my fiance, we're sitting there and we said like, hey, if you both need us at all, like we're always here, and it doesn't have to be us. Like if you want us to connect you with somebody up there, if you want us to connect you with somebody else, like we can totally do that. But it's just so important to have those people in your life that can walk alongside you, during that transition. It's just so important to have those people around you because they can really help shape the person who you are. I think we realize and become who we are and discover who we are through the people that walk alongside us. So I just think it's so important to have those people who will be there to walk with you through that transition, because you can get so much out of it.
I think you bring up a neat point, John, in that, there's that transitional moment when you graduate high school and you go to college. And then while you're at college in general is a transitional moment in folks' lives, because we have 4 to maybe 7 years to go through an experience that is preparing. It's designed to prepare us for what is next. And so the whole moment is transitional, not to mention while you're in college, you're choosing majors, you're figuring out what direction in life. You're also experiencing what we call here Gator West, we've kind of isolated down years of vocational experience of college, and then there's this calling experience. So I got to pick a career, so I got to take some classes. I got to graduate. My folks are going to want me to do that. But at the same time, above and beyond all that, we're being called to serve in the world and do some amazing stuff. I love how you said that it's not just about connecting you to people in this transitional moment of college, but it's also remembering those connections you have back home.
Right.
And that it's not just, okay, once you're gone, local church, peace out, see you later. It's how do you think, and why do you think it's important to continue to maintain certain connections with folks that have poured into you throughout your life, even after you move away? Why do you think that's so important?
Yeah, so I think it's important because, well, like you talked about calling, or vocation, it comes from the word vocare, which means to call. And so it's like you're you're being called to something. And I think those people who you left in that transition, so to speak, like they're the people that know you really well. And so they're able to speak into your life in different ways than maybe somebody who you just met or somebody who is new to your life. So they're able to see some things in your life to say like, hey, like when you were in middle school, like I saw this in you and it was a special gift that I saw in you. And maybe that can help you in terms of what you're feeling called to do. And then I think other times too, the people that are back where you were before, they can help you think about as you're discovering your vocation or your calling in college. They're also the people that can say to you, how is your vocation going to connect to the common good? Like, are you going to be, do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, an accountant? And how does that connect to the common good? How does that connect to your faith? How are you going to use that to be a minister? How are you going to use whatever you decide to do to be a servant in that way? And so I think those people can help you point to those things and say, here's the gifts that you have. You're going to be an engineer. Well, how is that going to connect to your faith, and how does it connect to your work for loving your neighbor? Which could be really important as you're going through college to try to figure out, because it's really good to try to ask those questions now. Then, what happens most of the time is people get later in life and they go, oh, I wish I would have done something that was more connected to my faith, or done something that was more connected for helping the common good and loving my neighbor. And it's good. It's a really good time in college to explore that and say like, well, what is it that I really love? What is God calling me to do? What are my gifts? And how are those things going to connect in that career that I'm working towards? So
I made reference to, there's an interview that Brene Brown did recently. And I talked about last night in a communion service we did, and in this discussion, she is exploring this idea of a mantra she has about not wanting to be right, but she wants to get it right, and the difference in how we experience life. And she said, if I'm more in tune to trying to get it right, then I'm willing to listen and to learn in my journey.
Wow.
And then instead of me trying to always be right, in which case I end up defending my stance and my posture. One, I saw as someone coming into college or going through a transitional moment with hands open, wanting to listen and learn and grow.
Yeah.
And the other one is saying, I'm already there. I know what I need to know. And I feel like in our transitional moments, I feel like we try and open up folks to a bigger and greater God, a bigger and greater understanding of faith, so that we as a collective community can learn and grow. Have you seen any places or spaces in your interactions with young adults, or in your interactions with college students, or even some of your high school students, where you have seen them begin to open up and realize, maybe for the first time, maybe on their journey, going, oh, this thing's bigger than just a list of rules or things that I follow, or a doctrine that I have to adhere to, that our faith and our journey is bigger. Have you seen any of that in what you've experienced?
Yeah, a couple of spaces where I've seen that. I really believe in mentors and mentorship. So, and one of the reasons why is exactly what you're talking about with the hands open, because I had a pastor of mine a while back who was really influential for me. He said that leaders need to be like kindergartners, because kindergarten is like the one time in your life when you're learning the most building blocks of what you will learn in the future. And he was saying just that openness and that pivotal part of like saying like, I'm always going to be a learner, a lifelong learner, is extremely important to your life. And so I think that openness, that willingness to learn, And that's why I really believe in mentorship and having people who have gone before you, because those people will teach you so much about who you are and what you want to be. And so a couple of ways that I've done that in the work with young adults is that I've seen that's really cool is we actually connected a bunch of like 20s and early 30s people at the church with people who were in their 70s at the church. And we did like these dinner, like for a lack of a better term, like mixers, where we would have these dinners with people who went to the same church, but they probably didn't interact as much. And so one of the people who's actually became a mentor of mine, who's older than me, he hosted at his house, and then there was 25 young adults and 25 people in this Sunday school group that's mostly in their 70s, and we just had dinner together. And what happened there was like you had people who were, had a lifelong of faith, and they were able to say like, hey, like I went through that too. Like when I was in college, I was trying to figure it out, and I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was trying to decide what type of lawyer should I be. And so we had those people. We had people who were teachers, and they met other teachers who were younger, and they were like, hey, I'd love to get to know you more and be there alongside of your journey. And so I think the combination of saying like, especially when you're younger, to say like, I want to be open to people who have gone before me and learn from them, you'll be so much further along in your life once you get down the road, because of that openness that you had and that willingness to learn from people who have gone before you in that way, especially in the life of faith. And there was just one quick more story on that. There was a group that I taught a Sunday school class to one of our like older Sunday school groups at the church. And I said to them, I said, hey, what would you tell a young person about their faith and how they're moving through faith in their life? And there's this one woman, she's the oldest member at our church. She's been a member for like 60 years or something like that. Crazy. And she said, you'll never forget how important that community is to your life until you don't have it. And so she was saying like, and you won't realize how much those people will mean to you until you're going through a difficult time, and how you needed that community there with you. And I thought that was so helpful to think about in terms of how you're moving through your life, and those people that you'll put in your life to teach you and to change you. There was Rachel Held Evans, who passed away a year, I think over a year ago now. It was really, really sad, but she used to say that was one of the biggest things about church that has always survived, is like this idea of like your people, your community will bring you casseroles, and what she meant was like, that's kind of like an older way to say, but like people will care for you, like if you're in that community, like when you're going through something really difficult, trying to figure out who you are and where you're going and all these things, like people will be there with you. And when you have that, you will be so thankful for those moments, and the way that you'll grow through those people. So
one of the funny, maybe in the college world, it's your community will send you a care package,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
I'm a college student that came from Winter Park, or First Methodist Winter Park, and John Sean sent me a care package. I would feel loved. I would feel
right. Yeah.
I'm not putting you on the spot. There's probably like 10 of them that probably are going to look for one now.
No, that's great.
But no, like that is so true. I don't, having gone through, and I think the older we get, the more of those experiences that we need community for grow. But I always find college students that come in and that astound me, the life experiences that they've gone through, and the ones that have had community seem to have shined and shown different ways that community has helped them through something, and those that haven't have longed for it.
Yep.
And
that's exactly
what you made me think of is, in these transitional moments, How do we encourage young people, high school graduates, right when they hit college campus, college students as they're going through their college experience? How do we encourage them to curate that college experience and that faith community in such a way that they can grow their faith, not for a personal gain, but grow their faith so that they can become better servants and stewards in the world, so that they can sense and fulfill a more fulfilling life in a way that, specifically right now, we have so much need in the world for the love of Christ that maybe some of us have been able to encounter, to love others. How do we encourage these students to, and I use the word curate because they're responsible for creating it.
Yeah.
Once you leave your home, it's kind of on you to take the initiative. So how do we encourage them to do that? What are some ways, some steps, some things that they can do?
Well, I love one of the passages that I love, which encourages like understanding yourself and working towards some self-discovery in your own gifts and exploring those gifts, is in Ephesians 4, and it has these 5 gifts, and it's apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher. And the reason why I love those gifts is some people call it the fivefold ministry. And the idea is that everybody has part of these gifts. And some you're probably going to be strong at, and some you're probably not going to be, some not so strong at. And I think thinking about those gifts, and there's like tests that you can take to kind of figure out where you are, but each of those gifts, I think, are really important to your formation and exploring like who you are and how you're, when people talk about calling, they say, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Frederick Buechner, or no, it was Parker Palmer, who said like, your calling is where no, it was Frederick Buechner. He said, where your passions and the greatest need of the world, that's where your calling really meets. So the greatest needs and your passions, that's where your calling is. And those 5 gifts can help you explore that. And those 5 gifts, there's some words that we have trouble with, like evangelist. Like if I'm a good evangelist, like what does that even look like? I think about evangelist as somebody who is around a lot of people has a lot of friends who are not Christian. And that's a real gift, to be somebody who has a lot of friends who are not Christian and have deep relationships with people. I think people are evangelists. They don't even know it, because they're just like really relational with people and have lots of friends of many different backgrounds. And so I think exploring those gifts can be really helpful. And there's lots of ways to do that. The other thing I think about is, I take a lot of people to Costa Rica, especially a lot of young people. And I always tell them, if they've never been to a new country before, it's what happens with your brain is neuroscientists have said, like, if you're in a place that's unknown to you or different, then your brain will try to find things that are similar to what things that are like the things that you know. And so the idea I try to tell them is try to fight that. Like try to experience the things that you don't know, or move towards the things that are unusual or different for you. And the way that I can think about that in the life of faith is like, when you're in a new space and there's a lot of different things going on, move into some of those uncomfortable spaces, because it's in those uncomfortable spaces that God can really change who you are, and God can really shape and mold who you are, because it's in those spaces that you can kind of challenge your faith to grow in a lot of different ways. And so it'll totally change how you view the world, and God will step in there. I'm convinced that God will step in and help you experience some particular way of his kingdom. So I think those are a couple of things that I think about. And then the last thing is that it takes some work. It takes like a step. And this is like this with anything, like with anything in life, like you have to take a step um, to get somewhere. You have to take a step. And one of the things I heard this woman speak recently at this conference, and she was like a neurobiologist or something like that, something crazy. It was really fascinating. She was talking about like mission, like how we're like missionaries, and we're all missionaries. And she said that in our brains, like we have short-term and long-term memory, but then in long-term memory, there's another part of long-term memory. It's called episodic memory. And that's the memory that really sticks. It's like the things that you don't forget, like the things that you, and so she was saying this is the type of memory that, when people have dementia or Alzheimer's, like if they don't recognize you, they, because of your connection to them and your relational connection, that they'll still know that you're somebody important because that memory is so like deep inside. And so I think that's a way of thinking about, you have to try things. You've got to try things and see like what's sticking with you. You've got to see like, I tell people this who are they think they want to become a certain type of pastor. I say, we'll try this area and see like how that's working for you. You have to try it to make sure that you're being shaped and formed, and to understand like who you are. That's the only way to find out whether you're good at it, or you have gifts there, or you enjoy that, or you feel passionate about it. The only way is to take a step out and experience it. Because if you experience it, that's the way that you'll really learn something. That's the way that you'll really be shaped and formed by something. So what better time in college to start experiencing things and trying things? There's lots of opportunities to do that in the life of faith, and to really see how that can shape and form you during that time. So.
A while ago, there was this conversation that was circulating around college campuses about being so diverse, about even the fear that some people had that we're going to be that college students will get exposed to all sorts of crazy thoughts and ideas.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
But from what you're saying, there's actually a blessing in the idea that you are going to be exposed to a wide variety of cultures, a wide variety of religious views, a wide variety of even looks at Christian theology and faith, and a wide variety of experiences. And so what I'm hearing you say is we should probably, as people of faith and as people that are living as folks who want to grow in what we understand about faith and God, is that we should probably lean into this diversity, lean into this idea of experience, and allow ourselves with guidance and mentorships and a community of faith around us to lean into that and experience it and grow from it.
That's exactly right. And that's how Jesus lived too, right? It's like he had his group of people that he was shaping and forming and being around that really close community. But then he was also around everybody else. And so I think it's a combination of both of those things. It's having that community around you to be with and lean on, but then also those people that you're encountering. And Paul did the same thing. Paul was very contextual. Paul, I always think of Paul as someone who would be, in many different spaces with many different people, but then also have that community too. And so I think it's really important. And some people get scared about that, right? Because it's like, okay, you're going to be seeing all these different things. And I always think, God, we believe in God, like God. And I think God can handle that. God can handle our faith, and God can shape us and form us in the midst of all those, different new things that we're seeing, and diverse perspectives. And I really think God can handle that, and I think it could be a real blessing. And like I said, that it seems like Jesus did that too. Jesus had that community, and Jesus was always also out in the world. So.
Why do you think, John, this conversation is important about how we, and I say we, but also how folks, specifically young adults going through times of transition in their lives as they're going from high school to college, and then during college and majors and vocation and calling, and then when graduation, there's got to be something next. Why is this conversation so important, specifically with that group going through these transitions? Why is it so important?
Well, a couple of thoughts. So the first thing, I was thinking of this recently because I was trying to think of some stories that I had like when I was in college, and some of the things that I still remember, some of those like episodic memory moments. And I was actually thinking, so my mom passed away when I was in college, and I remember, this is crazy because I was trying to think of some things, and I remember when Heather and Mike came to my mom's funeral when I was a junior in college. And because of the camp connection, I had worked at the camp, and then that next year my mom passed away, and I will never forget that. And one of the reasons that happened, that I had these people who literally drove, like an hour and a half to be at my mom's funeral to support me and to be there for me, was because of those ways in which I I had to take that step. I was in that camp community, and I was reaching out to mentors, and I was having those experiences. And so I think those are like those moments that you'll never forget. And if we want to have those moments, then we have to make sure that we have people around us who are helping shape us and mold us. And then we also have that opportunity to be that for other people. So, and so that's the second part of it, right? Is that I heard somebody say, in terms of small group culture, like, you should always be leading a group of people and in a group. So you should always lead a group and have a group, and you should always and so I think that that's very relevant to all aspects of our life. If you should always have people who are helping you along the way, and you should also be that for other people as well. And if you learn to do that in college, if you're always like helping people along the way, and you're also leaning into those mentorships, that will greatly impact, I think, how you live for the rest of your life. So if you're leading and also being led, I just think it astronomically later on in life, you'll realize like, oh, that was so influential. Those like 4 years, that was really influential in my life. And now that's just kind of my habit, is people look back to like, that's just my habit. Like, I'm always mentoring people, and I'm always being mentored. I'm always in a group. I'm always leading a group, and you just get in that habit. So
wouldn't that then be beautiful if the world or all of our communities saw our First Winter Park, where you serve, and Gator Wesley, where I serve, as just being these places of intersection, to where we are just this intersection of people helping other people and people being helped by other people. And because of their intention, their love that they have found, they're wanting to find new ways to love other people. And they're finding new ways to care for others. And they're knowing that those folks that they're caring for are also there and surrounding and caring for them. And not just them, but they're actually leading places out into the world that are feeding and caring and loving others who need that in astounding ways, especially now.
Oh, definitely. And I actually, this is what's so nice for me, is that when somebody goes to UF, I feel so good that you all are there, because that's like, and here's the crazy thing about community and relationships, right? Is like that I know you and Heather so well, and that because of the community that we have, and then when people leave the community that I'm at, I know that there's somebody there to be with them in the next step of their life, which is so crucial to how we want to live. And so it's so comforting to know that if they leave, that I could say like, Heather and Joel are there, and they're like, they've been people like this for me, and they can be people like that for you, you know? And so in that moment, so it just later in life, when you think about it, it just makes a world of difference. So.
Well, John, I have appreciated your friendship over the years, and excited about the things that you have in store for you and your transitions. You're getting married. You've taken a new role
Yep.
in the church. It is just so cool to see and to continue to be part of your life, man. I appreciate you and being a part of this conversation, and look forward to hanging out sometime soon, maybe in person. That would be an amazing.
I know. That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
I want to know you, 'cause you are like nobody else.